Hey everyone! For today's video, I wanted to do something for Valentine's Day. For Valentine's Day, a staple gift is chocolates, and there's been a trend going around lately that I've been itching to try, and pretty much this video is just an excuse for me to try this out. I'm going to be making, or trying to make, hot cocoa bombs. So let's get started. I'll list all the stuff that I use down below, and if I have any affiliate links to the items that I use, then those will be included as well. So I have this silicone hemisphere mold. There's 6 kind of big, I think they're like 2.5 inch diameter, pretty much like the perfect size to drop into a mug and to hold the amount of cocoa from a packet of hot chocolate. But one thing that I wasn't really looking forward to, having previously worked with these kind of silicone molds to do chocolate, is how floppy they are. When you're trying to do like a shell of chocolate like you do with these hot cocoa bombs, you're supposed to maneuver the mold around so that the chocolate will get all over, and then typically you flip it over to let the excess chocolate like drip out. But when you have multiple pieces in the mold, it's kind of hard to do that with all of them at once. And I actually saw this great tip. I can't believe I didn't even think of it, and I usually don't see people doing this, but I'll leave a link down below to the video I watched. But she cut her silicone molds so that they became like single molds, and it was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Because once they're cut, 1, it's easier to maneuver because you're just doing 1, and then 2, they're super easy to store. You can just stack them all in each other and then they take up so much less space. Anyway, so I cut mine. I guess the one thing if you're gonna cut your molds is you need to have a cupcake or muffin tin, because once they're cut, they can't really like stand up straight because they're domes. So you need one of those to kind of plop them in to keep them from rolling around. Anyway, I cut them, and I cut off a little bit of the excess so that when I did put them into the muffin tin, they wouldn't really like bump into each other. And yeah, so this is what I have. Now, to do the chocolate. I'm using candy melts, and I'm just doing it in the microwave according to the instructions on the back. Pretty much just popping it in for a minute, stirring it, and then 30 more seconds each time, taking it out, stirring it until it's melted. Once melted, I scooped up some of the chocolate and I put it into one of the molds. I picked it up and moved it around. These candy melts, I think, are a little bit thicker than what I've seen other people use, or maybe I just didn't heat it up enough, but I kind of had to tap it to get it to move where I wanted it to. And then once I got it on all the sides, I put it back. And then the next one, I started doing the whole pouring it in and moving it around, but then I decided that it would just be faster if I used my spoon to kind of manipulate the chocolate to go around the edges. I've also seen people do this with a pastry brush, just brushing it on. So I went through and I did that for each one, trying not to make it too thin, to keep the chocolate from like pooling at the very bottom and then the like very top edge being like super thin. I wanted to have them cool while they were flipped upside down. So then the chocolate will kind of like go down the edges as it's solidifying. So I put some parchment paper on a sheet tray and then flipped them over like so. And then I put this in the fridge to solidify. And while that was happening, I have these dehydrated marshmallows. It's like a multicolor bag. Since it's Valentine's, I wanted to use the pink ones only. So while I waited for those to harden, I sat here and picked out a bunch of the pink marshmallows. So when I was done with that, that ended up being the perfect amount of time to then go and get the chocolates and to pop them out. So when I flipped these over, I could kind of see in 2 of them that they were a little too thin in spots. So I ended up melting some extra candy melts, and I used those to try to reinforce those spots. I let those cool again in the fridge while I popped these ones out. On the hand that I was going to be touching the chocolate, I wore a glove. I ended up kind of ditching that in the end, you'll see why. But my intention was to not leave like little fingerprints all over the place. So to pop these out, hold the mold with one hand, and then with the other hand, gently kind of start to peel back the edge and go around and make sure that the whole thing is peeled back. When that's done, flip it over in your palm and then just pull at one of the sides and pull it up like so. And there you go. You'll see me here starting to take them apart by like pulling the edge away from each other like this, and I would not recommend doing that because I end up cracking one of them. So yeah. The funny thing is, the two that I reinforced are the ones that I ended up breaking anyway, so those two I guess were just not meant to be. With the first one, I did what I was saying where I was like pulling the edges away like this as I demolded it, and I guess since you do that, it pulls away and then it squeezes the other sides in and it makes it crack. It's funny because it demolded just fine, but it was like super fragile and yeah, it just broke. And the other one, I carefully peeled it back and then went from one edge and unpeeled it, but I guess I didn't reinforce that one side properly and there was a hole, so I had to scrap those two. Anyway, I still have enough to make 2 hot cocoa bombs, which is kind of perfect because it's Valentine's Day, so it's like one for you and one for your Valentine. So for this next step, I heated up this cake pan in a 200-degree oven, and then I put it down upside down so that you can very clearly see what I'm doing. Using my gloved hand, I picked up one of the half spheres at the bottom, like at the edge, and then I plopped it on and kind of rubbed it to melt the edges, and then I put it into a cupcake lined tin. Trying to work fast, you want the edge to still be a little melty, put in all your hot cocoa stuff. So I'm doing it the super easy way, and I'm just doing a packet of hot cocoa. So I poured the hot cocoa mix in, and you can see here that I had to be really careful when I filled it because I was trying to use the whole packet and it really fills this up. Then I took my marshmallows and carefully placed them, and finally I picked up another half sphere. Then I plopped it down, melting the edges like before, and picking it up at the base. Try not to burn your fingers, but you want to pick it up as close to the bottom as you can. Lift it up and then put it in place and hold it in place, trying to squeeze it down enough so that the chocolate like sticks together, but not so much that you're gonna break the sphere. And here you can actually see they were really nice and shiny, but after manipulating it, even with my gloved hand, it became super dull, and it was like, what was the point of even wearing the glove? So yeah, that was kind of annoying. When I did the first half sphere, I melted it and then I kind of slid it off and picked it up like this. You don't really want to do this because it'll melt unevenly and it can cause holes. So that's why you want to grab it at the base and boop, lift it up like that. So basically I just repeated this with the other one. This time I did the marshmallows first because I figured that I could work faster. I could just plop the marshmallows in and then pour the hot cocoa mix on top. And then I didn't have to like fight with trying to pile the marshmallows on carefully and not have them roll out or whatever. But anyway, so I did that, melted the edges of the other half and then stuck that on. And then I had 2 hot cocoa bombs. And then it was time to decorate. And to do this, I put both of these on some parchment paper and I melted some more of the chocolate and put them into a little parchment paper, little pastry bag kind of thing that I made. I cut the tip off and did a zigzagging motion like so. Before this hardened, I dusted them with a little bit of this pearly white sugar. Then I melted some white candy melts and I did the same thing, doing a zigzag motion, and this time I have these little heart sprinkles, you know, for Valentine's Day, and I sprinkled those on top. And just because I thought it was missing a little bit of something, I put a couple of these bigger pearly looking sprinkles on top as well. And there we go! So now all you have to do is find a nice way to display them. Originally, I was hoping I could fit them into this little heart-shaped box that I made years back. I'll have a card for it up here somewhere. You can make one like that, or you could, I actually have this little box that I had lying around, so I just stuffed a bunch of tissue paper and then put the bombs in, and there you go. Pretty cute. So yeah, here they are all finished. And now to test them out, you plop them into a mug and then you pour hot milk over. I didn't really get the explosion that you see some people get where it just like pops open and all the like marshmallows and like everything pops out. So I tried again with the other hot cocoa bomb, this time trying to strategically pour my milk in the side, thinking it would melt the seam of the hot cocoa bomb and then it would like kind of pop open like that. And well, this is what happened. So yeah, I don't know, it didn't really get the satisfying little that you see a lot, but whatever. I had a lot of fun making these, and I would totally make them again now that I have this gigantic bag of dehydrated marshmallows. I probably should. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!